That's fair. Yeah.
Share that via email.
Okay, great.
And
Thank you.
and there was the information on the municipalities conservation development policy.
Yes, thank you, Council Morse. I did see that. Thank you. Good. Okay, any other additions to the agenda? No, can I have somebody move that we accept the agenda? Anybody? Greg, Tim, Fritz, anyone? I'll move. Anybody second? There we go. Thank you, Tim. All in favor? I'll have to learn. I think the mayor does this sort of like, accept by, consensus or something. I have to learn that lingo. Okay, moving on. Adoption of minutes. We have the May 26 minutes. Any questions or comments? Hopefully everybody had a chance to review them. I did at the time. No questions or comments. Somebody to move. Oh, Councillor Morse. Yes. Yeah.
I just got to get my glasses on here. I knew there was something that was bothering me, and I looked at them again last night. The statement that council was working on allocating a very last page, council update. Tim wasn't there, so it should just be me. Council was working on allocating Canada Community Building Funds towards sewer improvements to help development Snub Cove. Isn't quite right. It should just say that council is hoping to have the revised agreements for the Canada Community Building Funds enable municipalities to allocate the funds to whatever they want. So that was just an example. It wasn't.
So could we maybe just could it be quickly reworded stuff to something like council's working towards, infrastructure improvements instead of sewer improvements, something like that?
No. I was specifically talking about the Canada Community Building Funds. So all I wanted to say is that council was working on having the revised Canada Community Building Funds agreement allow municipalities to use to get funds for whatever they want.
Could you say just expand the scope of eligible expenses?
Well, it was more than being able to get that lump sum amount every year and accumulate it, get it bigger than the 50 grand we're getting. Yeah.
Okay. Does that make sense, Steph? You can capture that change. Okay, great. Yeah. So if there's no further comments, we can accept those minutes with those amendments. Yep. Anybody move? Yep. Thank you, Councillor Morris. Second. Thank you, Fritz. All in favor? I think I saw all the hands. Yep. Great. Okay. Adoption minutes done. Public comments. Steph, I don't think we have any public comments. Okay. Moving right along. So new business, because we've got lots to discuss. So I wanted to move along. So the order we have at the moment is we have Mark Shea here from Tomo Spaces. So unless there's any other reason to reorder this, are we good with keeping with this order? And then we can discuss the 4.2 MOU after this. I think there was a bit of discussion as to which order, but we're all good. No objections. Okay, great. So excellent. Take it away. I think, Mark, go ahead and take it away. Or I guess no, your presentation is going to kind of introduce everything, I think. So I'm just going to let you take it away. Perfect.
Thank you, Robin. And good morning, everyone. Thank you to committee members for inviting me to talk to you this morning about an exciting proposed phase development plan for Lot 1. And special greetings to Councillor Allison and Councillor Tim, as well as Liam, who's taking a drink of coffee. Cheers. And Daniel, to staff and Steph. My name is Mark Shea. I'm the co-founder and principal of Tomo Spaces. And today, let me share my screen on this side. I'm here to talk with you about this phase development plan proposal for Lot 1. And if I may sort of rewind a little bit, is back in 2021, the committee invited me to make a presentation about different affordable housing models. And at that time, I shared with the committee the project that my team and I were working on in Vancouver. And so this is a project that is an example of missing middle, the idea is to introduce gentle density in single-family home neighborhoods in a way that is appropriate. And the other very cool thing about this is that through a rezoning process with City of Vancouver, we were able to come up with this mechanism where 3 out of the 12 homes are offered at 30% below market. 30% below market in Vancouver may still be a big number. However, it's a step toward affordability. And those 3 homes, as time goes on, will be pegged to CPI. So it's not just the first sale that will be affordable, but they will be perpetually affordable. And so as good news, we're going to fast forward and time travel to now. So this is a recent photo. It's June now 2023, and we're almost ready to move in and welcome the co-housing families into this project. And I extend the invitation for anytime when any of you are on the Vancouver side, are in town, I'd be happy to give you a tour. So the conversation we are having today really started also in 2021. At that time, the municipality made a call out for an expression of interest for Lot 1, Area 2. And council and staff shortlisted Birch and Tomo as the 2 groups to who responded to the call and was shortlisted to go further. At the time, there was the issue with the wastewater treatment plant became a higher priority. And so I think from the municipality's point of view, the discussion about this particular initiative paused. However, the good thing is the call did bring together Birch and Tomo. So Robin and I, for example, walked the site together, and the 2 teams continue to explore the possibilities. So Birch and Tomo looked at this, and one of our thoughts is that we could get more affordable housing if we were to consider not just the lot, but the whole not just Area 2, but the whole lot together. And so that brings us to today in terms of asking the committee for some feedback and advice about what we're initiating and proposing to do. So what's the potential with Lot 1, especially for non-market housing? And some of the baseline parameters is our goal, our shared goal is that how can we quickly start building in the next 5 years, especially with non-market housing? I think around the room, we would all agree that the need for diverse housing is urgent. So time is of the essence. How can we get this started? And as we do this, we also want to be respectful in terms of there's lots of good work that's already been done. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We also want to take into consideration the context of Snug Cove. So if I'll also just stop if there are any questions along the way. I can see you, and if Steph can also help me if I miss anyone who wishes to jump in with questions.
Greg, go ahead. Yeah.
All right.
Hi, Mark. Thanks. I just had a quick question about the building you showed us in Vancouver. There's
Yes.
12 families living in there. Are they individual units or is there communal cooking facilities?
Yes. So this is a model we are pioneering called co-housing light, where a developer like ourselves partners with a co-housing group. So you're right that in that each of the 12 homes have their own kitchens. In addition to that, there's also a common house. It's in this project about 1,200 square feet, where there's a shared big kitchen where the co-housing members can cook together and eat together.
Thank you.
Great. So the key questions.
Mark, can I just add to that for Greg? We have co-housing at Belterra, Greg. So it sounds like a very similar model.
Yes, yeah, it's a very similar model. The difference with Belterra is that's primarily co-housing member driven. Like it's a very the members themselves initiate, and they're responsible for acquiring the land, hiring the consultants, hiring the contractor. So with the proposed phase development plan, what we want to answer are these questions. How can we build on previous plan? Let's also understand the level of community support for more diverse housing. As well, what are the appropriate forms if we are to consider additional density? And it was also important for us to also, in addition to the form itself, but also look at different ownership and tenure models. Is it rental homes, lease to rent to own? There are a lot of interesting newer models that are emerging. And previously we talked about speed. So no rezoning, how can we get there faster? As well as, I mean, there's a real priority from the provincial and federal, at the federal level, how do we leverage some of those funding programs sooner? And then throughout this process, how do we grow the capacity to build, manage, and finance more multifamily housing? That's one of the observations that, or one of the feedback that we heard is that currently we've got a great community of builders, developers who are very good with single family homes, but perhaps we want to grow that in terms of the capacity to do multifamily projects. And maybe I'll just pause here for a sec. I mean, this is a good place to receive feedback from the committee about whether there's other burning questions that we should put into this work plan.
Thanks so much, Mark. I mean, I think probably some of the discussion that we might have as well is making sure that everybody's kind of on board for the idea that this is sort of that continuation of the expression of interest for area 2 of lot 1, because that's really what this grew from, right? And looking and saying, hey, instead of that area 2 only, because we've been talking to folks, that's going to be a really tricky piece to develop. Like, it's really not the ideal one to start with. So that's kind of how this all grew. And we said, hey, rather than just kind of picking that one spot, isn't it worth kind of looking holistically at the whole thing, seeing what would have to kind of happen for the whole thing? And then, as you say, the idea is it's a phased development plan. So figuring out of this whole lot 1, going through a process, community engagement, on working with the planning department, all that to figure out how we could make the best use out of these with the work that's already been done. You know, it's already zoned, it's already got lots of input on it, and really take it from where it is now. Like, my goal at the end of this process would be taking it from where it is now to, like, you know, ready to start building on it. You know, like it's you know, been identified, maybe it's even ready for subdivision, whatever it is, like we can get really close to actually start building things. So taking it through that process. So yeah, that might be part of our sort of higher level discussion about this proposal. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in at this stage, or Mark, I think you've got a few more slides to go through.
I do. Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought I saw a hand up.
Yeah, Liam, looks like. Oh, sorry, and Councillor Morris. I think she's first. Councillor Morris, do you want to go ahead?
Okay, my screen's saying I'm still muted, but there I go. I'm, as you all know, do believe in process. But I think for now, because this has just been dropped on us with no pre-information, I think we should just take all this as information, ask some questions to clarify the information, and then we need to have a different discussion, which is just the committee without the applicants.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't necessarily disagree. I'm completely on board with having a discussion and planning process and everything. So we're also looking for feedback on that. I might go to Liam because he might have some comments directly addressing this. So Liam, go ahead.
I agree with Councillor Morris that in terms of process, that's the best way to go. But Mark, maybe you'll get to it, but I'm just curious about servicing these areas. So we've had a lot of internal discussions about how we might service these areas with core infrastructure needs, like water, wastewater, that kind of a thing, drainage. And so I'm curious what your thinking is about that.
Yeah, that's definitely a big topic, and there's a lot more work that we need to do, and you're also working on it. My initial thought is probably through as we proceed with this work, we may have to think about it in terms of short-term and long-term. And so the short-term may be there's solutions like sanitary fields. And then long-term is understanding more with the upgrade, at what point is there capacity to tie into the system?
Right. Because, I mean, I'll be really frank, we all know that the wastewater treatment plant currently doesn't have capacity to take on anything more. But if we are going to look at the Snug Cove area being the density zone that we want to expand, we absolutely have to be able to increase capacity at the plant, and somebody's got to pay for that.
Yes.
And so one of the things I've been thinking about is like how subdivision and build out of this area can help pay for that.
Yes. Yeah.
Then it becomes this balancing act between keeping things affordable and, you know, having municipal support in these types of housing initiatives, but also ensuring that, you know, we've got some income to pay for the core services. So
yeah,
something to keep in mind.
That's great.
Yeah, and I know for sure, like I've had discussions with Adam Taylor, which, you know, might have had a chat with him on various things. He's very, what I understand, quite knowledgeable in all these things. So for sure, as part of this process, we'd be proposing like infrastructure is a critical thing, roads. Yeah, as you said, how we're dealing with it. And I think for sure, if it's getting developed anytime soon, septic would happen, would be the only solution. I also just wanted to point out, Councillor Morris, I know you mentioned sort of the applicant, or you used some word there. I'm not sure if you used that specifically or just generically, but I just, from my point of view, this is very much in partnership with the municipality. This is not us, you know, coming to you saying, hey, we want to develop this. This is, hey, we see an opportunity here. We know that the municipality and their planning department has more work than they can handle now. This is not a priority for them. Like, they don't have the capacity to take this on. We see this as, you know, and we being, you know, Birch, Tomo, this committee, I think, that this is quite an important need in the community. So how do we move this forward as a community? So as partners, how can we move this initiative forward? Tomo approached us, they have this great experience. So very much the whole idea of this is in partnership. It's not really meant to be Birch and Tomo sort of, you know, approaching the municipality and then going away and doing their own thing. It's like, how can we all of us work together to move this initiative forward and to actually get some diverse and specifically non-market housing built on Bowen. So just so we're all clear on kind of the intentions of why this is coming forward. Fritz, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just thought maybe one good reason to work to look at all areas, at least in a preliminary way, is that give you an example, like if you look at the access, and if you realize how steep that existing road is from the works yard up, so to speak, then the question is it good to know where the final road would be? Is it only accessed from Carter, or does it have to have some kind of a connection to my partner? You know what I mean? So then that may
I agree.
change the configuration maybe slightly or whatever, you know. But it's really hard to do it later, like because there's like
No,
a
and
first area is almost level the road, and then suddenly it dives down. And do you need that road or not?
yeah, and Fritz, that's exactly why we're saying we should look at the whole thing, and it should be sort of planned out. Like, what are the road needs? What are the infrastructure needs? Where do they go? How can they be planned holistically? And then once we kind of get to hey, this is the best use of this, given all of the input and everything that's been done. Now, how do we phase it? What's the best place to start? Given all of that information, where the roads are, where the infrastructure is, where the best housing is, then where's the first place to start? So that is exactly what the part of this process would be.
Yeah, and also, Robin, also for the septic, for instance, like if that is phased, maybe, I mean, there's no legal line there between them at the moment, I guess. This maybe the septic fields can be temporary on other areas, you know, in the phasing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we identify, and as Mark sort of said, working together with the municipality and the engineering department, what is that timeline, if anything? So it's septic now, but maybe in 25 years, we, you know, that septic could be decommissioned, you know, the land, you know, brought up to speed, and then something else is built there in the future. So it's taking all of that into account. That would be the idea. Yeah. So maybe Mark, we'll let you keep going because I know you have a few more slides, and then we'll get to the end, and then
this is great. One point about the opportunity, as you describe it, Robin, and I want to emphasize that I see that there are stars aligning. And Robin and I, we talked about two hands clapping in terms of Tomo and Birch. And I think it's a really example of this partnership model. So how we got together was initiated by the call that the municipality made. And through this process, Birch and Tomo started to work closer together. The goal is we see a need for more housing. We see possibly more funding availability coming online as housing is very much a big priority. So how do we, and collectively around this table, including council and staff, especially I think what we're going to do about the sewer upgrade. Like, this is a great example why it makes sense for all of us to be talking about it in concert. Perhaps, like Liam was saying, is some of the density could lead to ability to pay for some of those upgrades. I think that's a great idea, great opportunity. So with that, let me jump into some of for my other projects. We're looking at, for example, funding from BC Housing. So what you're seeing on screen right now is a menu of possibilities. Many of the folks in the non-market housing sector are anxiously awaiting for the third call of Community Housing Fund to open. And I think many of us think and anticipate that'll be later this summer. So opportunities coming on board. And then for my other project, we're also looking into the Green Municipal Fund. I think some of the projects on Bowen is also looking at this. It's a great program for it awards up to $10 million, $5 million of which is a grant, provided that the project meets very ambitious sustainability and energy targets. Possible. And so I think we're getting towards the end. This is a proposed scope for things that we wish to do, and it includes community workshops. It also includes coordination on the infrastructure plans for the Cove. And then we also wanted to explore opportunities under the light industrial uses does not trigger the rezoning, but just more opportunities for work, arts, and culture. And this is a potential list of project champions and stakeholders we want to involve. So council, this question around how frequent you want to hear from us in terms of updates. And then with Daniel, with Liam, how many workshops and participation you wish to do with us. And of course, the committee. And then perhaps BICS, IPS, we're almost neighbors on lot 1 and Hearth. And then any other stakeholders that the committee might have requests and suggestions for.
Thanks so much, Mark. Yeah, I think the important thing is this is very much sort of a draft outline, and we're definitely looking for feedback, and we'd look to develop this together with the municipality, with the committee, and figure out together what the project should look like, essentially this project. Tim, I think I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I just want to echo Robin and Mark's comments about the team approach here. Yes, we need process, and but this process, I don't see it following a usual applicant and review process. Rather, it's a team effort, and the item on today's agenda about the memorandum of understanding between BIM and Birch is a big part of this. And as I understand it, what we're working towards here is developing a really strong team where we're all moving in the same direction and working together. It's going to require very good communication. So when Mark talks about updates, there's going to have to be, I think, regular communication between the various stakeholders and partners. But the power of this is that if we all come together, I think we have a much better chance of actually achieving the construction of non-market housing on Bowen.
Great, thanks, Tim. Is there any other comments? I'm just trying to check on time and see how we're doing. We're a little over time, but any other thoughts or comments for Mark? Oh, yeah, we do. Liam, go ahead.
Well, first, thanks, Mark, and thank you, Robin, for working collaboratively on this. And I do want to apologize that we as municipal staff haven't followed up with you more earnestly about the expression of interest for area 2 on lot 1. I always get the numbers mixed up. It's not for lack of desire or need, it's just a capacity issue. And so I think it's wonderful that you have come together, because you both were very promising or submitted promising proposals, and so you coming together, I think, is actually a great thing. One of the things I think we want to keep in mind as we explore, and I love the idea of thinking about the whole lot 1 in one initiative, so to speak, not just as the separate discrete areas. But in thinking about that, we want to be really conscious about how we use area 1 of lot 1, because it is the only industrial zoned land that we have available. Mm-hmm. And so it's not to say that we can't create industrial zoned land elsewhere, but right now it's basically all we have. Yeah. And so we hear from the community a lot about the lack of that zoning and the need for that zoning. And so I would just want to really strongly urge people to think about how can we do mixed use if we were going to develop that area. And so I'm not saying it wouldn't be good for housing. I think it'd be great, but I think we also just really need to keep in mind that there is a real need in the community for light industrial space maker space and that kind of thing. So just want to keep that on people's mind.
Yeah, thank you. And that would definitely be part of the process and engagement to keep all those uses in the mix. Councillor Morris, go ahead.
Totally echoing everything Liam said, and I'm really glad to see the two of you working together for area 2 of lot 1, because then we don't have to make a decision between which proponent would go forward, which makes things much easier. I'm assuming from that all we're doing today is receiving this for information. We're not being asked for any decisions or anything, because I do still believe that if you're talking about a partnership, each of the partners has to decide on their own whether they're wanting to join the partnership or not. Yeah. So, and there was a lot of work done with the Mayor's Standing Committee on Community Lands and other reports. And Fritz was involved, I think, in the initial surplus lands working group, weren't you, Fritz? I remember beautiful sketches and drawings about lot 1. So, yeah, so I'm happy to just receive this for information today. I'll make that motion.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and that's perfect. I think that's what it is. Sorry, Mark, did you want to go ahead?
Yes, I wanted to respond to Councillor Allison is yes, for today, we wanted to bring this idea forward to you. We are not asking for any financial support. In fact, Birch and Tomo, it's our responsibility to figure out we're responsible for the funding of this plan. And furthermore, we're checking in with staff we also want to do this in a way that minimizes the staff time. And so we're also introducing the idea to start this conversation that if staff wanted to, just understanding how much time and how much attention they wish to get involved.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, definitely. I would see Daniel and the planning department being part of, planning out the whole project and exactly the level of involvement. So I think I'll move along because we are behind on schedule. Thank you so much, Mark. We really appreciate your time and your presentation. It's wonderful. And yes, to echo Councillor Morris, this was very much for presentation. This is an idea we've had. As we said, it's all the partners have to come together and agree to work together. So this was a presentation, and I'll probably look to staff, Liam, Daniel, to sort of how do we move this along to the next steps? What's the right process? You don't have to answer now, more so we can, maybe bring it to the next meeting and say, hey, we've had this presentation, yeah, like we appreciate this is really just the initial presentation. Hey, we have an idea, we can work together, and then we can kind of work through those, what the next steps are and how we, move together, move forward together. Daniel, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, sorry, like receiving for information, but maybe then referring to the next Housing Advisory Committee. So it's on the agenda next month. So council or the committee will have had a chance to have seen the presentation this time, reflect on it, and then, aim for discussion at the next meeting.
Perfect. Okay, that's a great idea. Thank you. So Steph, yes, let's add it there. And I'd say let's give it a good amount of time, because I feel like there'd be, at least, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes or something. It's going to be a, good discussion. I don't think we want to squish that time. Okay, I'm going to move along. So 4.2 on our agenda is the Birch and BIM Memorandum of Understanding. So I'm going to let Tim, hopefully he's here. The video has disappeared. There you are. So I think I'm going to let Tim take this one over, and just to explain. So I'm going to recuse myself from the discussion of this. And just for full transparency, I made that decision because if there is a decision to move ahead with the Memorandum of Understanding, Birch, the organization that I represent, and then of course me personally as the Executive Director of Birch, there may be a financial benefit to me if the municipality works with us, and then there's operational funds and everything. So just so everything's fully clear and transparent, I'm going to recuse myself at this point. I'll let Tim take over. He will do a great job presenting this, and Steph, so I'll leave the Zoom, and then will you just call or text me, and then I'll jump back on? Is that how that works? Okay, excellent. So I will leave it to Tim, and I'll see you in the discussion. Oh, yeah, Mark.
So as a process question, as a member of the public, may I stay for this? I'm interested in this discussion.
Yes. Oh, and so actually, yes, and actually I would probably need to assign Fritz, because you're the vice chair. How do you feel about acting as chair for this? So sort of guiding the discussion. Tim will kind of lead the discussion, but are you okay to
He doesn't
if
have any
needed.
choice. He's the vice chair.
But I didn't have any time to print out the agenda and you all.
No, that's okay.
So.
I think Tim's going to lead the discussion, just you to sort of guide, and if somebody puts their hand up to address it. So I'm going to leave it to you, and Steph, you can always jump in, and I will see you all in a little bit. Okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you, Robin and Fritz. And don't worry, Fritz, it's just one item on the agenda, and then
All right.
Robin will be back. So you have a copy of the draft memorandum of understanding, and it is very much a draft for review. And our mission today, as I see it, is really to discuss and review the principle of what we're doing here. We're not wanting to get into wordsmithing. Once we have had a chance to discuss it and review it and maybe make some suggestions on the principle side of things, then this will have to go to staff for doing the wordsmithing and bringing it then to council. But this is very much in line with what I mentioned earlier, where we're really trying to create a team approach here and get away from what I refer to is non-market housing developers being treated like developers when they don't have the resources to put up all the benefits and amenities that market developers do. There's a couple of things that I wanted to suggest as revisions, which are, I think, in principle before we start. And so in section 4B, I'm going to suggest that we remove number 3, provide operational funding to Birch, because what I think would be more appropriate is if we added under C, number 4, Birch and BIM will pursue a service agreement to establish the terms of their partnership and shared interest in the provision of non-market housing on Bowen Island. And Steph, I can send that to you after if need be. So this is just to clearly establish what is mentioned in section 11, which is that this MOU is not intended to create any binding commitment on either party, but is an outline of the major terms upon which the parties would be willing to pursue the agreement. The parties have no legal commitment to one another until the parties have entered into a formal agreement. And that will be the service agreement. So what I'd like to open the discussion up for is thoughts on the direction we're heading here. And I'd just like to emphasize the importance of and the strength of the partnership which through this will really become a 3-way partnership, BIM, Birch, and Tomo for the Lot 1 project. Any thoughts? I'll take silence as absolutely.
No, don't take silence as a. So my major question is, I have no comprehension or understanding of why we need to do this now. To me, the prime thing we need to worry about now, so we can get affordable housing going, is for Birch to expend all its time and efforts on getting the housing built on Lot 3. And then I'm so not getting into the details of anything, but to me, this is premature, and we should just be working together to get Lot 3 built. let's have a success and something done. And then that always helps when you get the first project done. I think it gives a little more momentum to the next project. And the presentation we had earlier is going to take, it's not a quick thing and doesn't need this to carry forward in my mind. So I think at this point, we should not be doing this. We should just be working together to get whatever we need to get the affordable housing built on lot 3.
Liam has his hand up.
Can I speak without putting my hand up?
I think Liam had his hand up.
Oh, did he? Okay, I didn't see that.
Oh,
Okay.
I think committee members should speak first and I can follow up later.
Yeah, I just think what Alison says, I understand the intention there, but I also believe that they're in such different phases. And for instance, for the municipality, for engineering, to take a look at the overall infrastructure, like are the roads in the right spot, and like the big picture, that I think that should be addressed, because otherwise, I think, Alison, that you get another huge delay. It's almost, I think it's the other way around. Like, Birch is more ready. If you look at the design process from the original schematic design all the way to finally get something built, it really adds up. So I think we should be able to have projects in different phases.
I'll disagree with you. We can look at the roads without having a memorandum of understanding.
Oh yeah, but I don't know how that relates to the memorandum of the. You're probably right, Alison. I don't know how that relates specifically to what Tim is saying, to the agreement. I just meant more in general. I mean, like one thing shouldn't stop the other. Liam, it's your hand is up there.
Yeah, thank you. And I think those are valid points. Like, it's entirely feasible for the municipality to look at servicing and development opportunities for lot 1 without an MOU with Birch. I think we're talking about two separate things. There's the proposal that Tomo and Birch were responding to from the EOI. And then this is a completely new separate thing that Birch is pursuing just with the municipality. And that Tomo then may be a partner with that agreement between Birch and the municipality. Or there may be some other configuration, I don't know. And Tim, I appreciate we're not going to get into words smithing and editing. I've got a whole bunch of that should this move forward, and so I think we can work on that. I do have I do want to just make kind of an overarching statement in that I'm not opposed to the idea of entering into a stronger partnership with Birch to provide support to housing initiatives for Bowen, because I know that we struggle from a capacity side at the municipality level to do all the things that we want to do or the community wants to do. So I just want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we're looking for ways to do it that is really maximizing effectiveness without creating more workload for staff. And Tim, you and I have talked about that a lot, so I think we're on the same page there. And I do think that the MOU needs to be a high level principle-based document where we achieve agreement on like goals and value statements, and that we avoid getting into too much detail around specific deliverables and specifics that would otherwise show up in a service agreement that we might enter into or something to that effect. So from a sort of principled place, conceptual place, I'm not necessarily opposed to it from a staff level. I think Allison's got some really good points though around like, is it totally necessary to have this to pursue what we were just talking about for lot 1? I don't know, but I definitely think we need help in advancing housing. So.
Yeah.
if I can jump in, Fritz. Um, so I guess my question, Allison, would be, what's the downside of doing this? Because really what this memorandum is to enable a process, enable a partnership. The terms of the partnership are going to be worked out in the service agreement, which may take quite some time to come to fruition. But if we, and we're going to understand that service agreement a lot better if we can start working as though we're already in it, and start working out, for example, how Birch, what things the municipality can do to help Birch get funding. And in the case of the Lot 1 project, Birch and Tomo get funding. And so all the memorandum is suggesting is that the municipality is ready to step up and be full partners, because we recognize that creating affordable housing in communities all over this country is a tremendous challenge, and it's not moving very well. I have experience from Whistler, where this approach, where the municipality and the nonprofit and the private sector got together and created projects and worked through the challenges as they did it, really worked and produced thousands of units of housing. So I see putting this off as just delaying the good work that we can be doing. And, you know, yes, we could do a little work without having this, but I think this is sort of the framework that we want to move into, the framework of a partnership that's actually going to deliver some housing.
Well, it's not, first of all, it's not a partnership agreement, it's a memorandum of understanding. Partnership agreements are different. And it's got way too much detail in it for a memorandum of understanding. A lot of what's in it should be in a service contract if we're wanting to engage Birch to deliver services on behalf of the municipality. And what's wrong with Birch and the municipality just having a meeting and sitting down together and saying, okay, how do we help you get Lot 3 housing, that piece of housing built on Lot 3? That we don't need a memorandum of understanding to have a meeting to discuss how we help Birch get Lot 3 built. And I don't see any reason needing to have this in place first. And Birch they need to spend their time on getting Lot 3 built, and now working with Mark on a development for area 2 of Lot 1, whatever the location is. So I'm sorry, Tim, I'm not at all in favor of proceeding with this.
Okay, well,
I'm quite in favor of having a little agreement that says, as the municipality, let's meet with Birch and let's have the discussion as to how we go forward to get the housing built on Lot 3, which I thought would have been the prime project because so much time has been spent on it already. If Birch is now saying they want to dump Lot 3 and go on with a joint project on Lot 2, let's just expend our time and efforts on getting the project finished that's sort of been started. And we don't need a memorandum of understanding to do that.
Tim?
Well, Birch is absolutely not dropping Lot 3. This is not an either or thing. This is basically a capacity building thing. And yes, this is not a partnership agreement, but and I don't know that we need a partnership agreement if we have if we get to the service agreement. And yes, there might be too much detail in here, and much of it should be in the service agreement. Liam and I have had a chat about that, and that's why it needs to go back to staff. And as Liam says, he has a bunch of suggestions to make. This is a principle and a demonstration to both Birch and the community that we are fully committed to working together to create housing on Bowen. It's urgent. It's been urgent for several years now. And we need.
We
to
can
say
have
that-
one paragraph that will say that. One simple little resolution that we work together to build the affordable housing built on Bowen, concentrating initially on lot 3 project to get it finished. And the
Alison,
storage.
Tim, can we go for a second to Greg, and then you can pick up your discussion after that? Greg, what were you? You're mute, I'm afraid.
Thanks, yeah, thanks, Fritz. Did I hear earlier that having such a document or a memorandum of understanding helps in the application for funding at the various levels of government? Did I hear that?
Tim, did you hear that?
Uh,
Greg, can you repeat that, please?
Does having a memorandum of understanding, however it's formed and however complex or not complex it is, but having that document in place and on record, does it help both proponents and the municipality source funding from various levels of government?
So I don't know if you heard that today, but that is absolutely the case in my view, and in my experience. And that's one of the principal reasons for the partnership. And that's different from Birch saying to BIM, we need, operational funding from BIM. We're a team, and we're going to work on getting funding. And the very fact that it's taken 3 years with not a lot of progress on the Lot 3 project is an indication that we need to do more. And we can do that with Lot 3 and Lot 1 at the same time. And to make these things sequential, basically, I just think is going to add years and years to an end result. And I don't see that it's more work. Part of the idea here is that we're shifting the workload from staff to others, so that they can play a coordinating role, but not having to do as much of the development role.
Thank you, Tim. I just one other point is there a way in which we can address some of Allison's concerns with the complexity and level of wording? Can it be restructured such that her concerns are addressed and that it actually can exist? And my other question quickly is procedural. Are we as a committee trying to recommend something that then goes to council and council votes on whether they want to enter into this, or what's that? I'm just kind of.
Yeah. Danielle, can you help out with that?
Yeah. This would be the Housing Advisory Committee making a recommendation to council, and ultimately council decision.
But having said that, I think in terms of the rewording, that's exactly what Liam has suggested. He's got some ideas on, and staff can work on the rewording. And especially now with Allison's comments, they can take that into account. Maybe this can be a much simpler thing, but I think it's a really important principle that we have to establish. So in terms of what we're doing, I would recommend that this, and with Liam's approval, recommend that it go to staff, and then staff can bring it forward to council.
Okay, Liam.
With a recommendation.
So it's a bit unconventional for committees to direct staff.
It's time.
Typically, that's not something we support or encourage, but given that I'm here and I'm allowed to direct staff, then I think we can on this particular one, because I guess like the normal process would be that this MOU would come to the committee would review it, and if the committee voted on and agreed or voted majority in favor to advance it to council for consideration, and that's the way it would go. But I'm not comfortable with it going to council as it currently stands. So what I would want to do is have staff do spend some time with it and do some revisions, and then I think the best approach would be that for it to come back to this committee, for the committee to relook at it, and then it's going from the committee to council. I don't know, Daniel, what are your thoughts on that approach?
I know I was trying to work through the same dilemma in terms of, well, the committee can't direct staff to do it versus the committee recommend council. The committee recommend council refer the MOU to staff. It's like we'll be November by the time we work through the.
Yeah, so that's why I was thinking, well, like
Yeah.
if I just say, well, we'll just spend some time on it. And then
I mean, it could
back.
just be that the committee just say we defer it to the next meeting. And then Liam as CAO separately says staff is going to work on it.
I'm okay with that.
So is that something Steph has to write and we have to agree upon?
I
think
move
it
that we defer discussion on the MOU to the next meeting.
Steph, you're mute, I think.
That works for me. Move around that, please.
I moved it.
Second,
Greg seconded it.
Okay, so Steph, you wrote something, but showed it on your screen or so? Is that where we are now?
Resolve to defer decision on a recommendation on the MOU to next meeting.
And that then gives Liam the time to have staff have a look at it without us having to do any direction if they want to be prepared for the next meeting. And I can give you my 2 pages of editing.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I was going to say not in the recommendation, but feel free to provide me any comments that people have on it that we can work with.
So can we vote on deferring?
I have a mover in a seconder. There's a discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Fritz, okay. I'll text Robin unless you want to chair forever, Fritz.
Well, no, it was a very pleasant experience. Thank you.
Fritz is the chair of the Board of Variance, by the way. He's
Yeah, I know.
very experienced at this.
Well, okay. So Robin, where are you?
It takes her a minute to get signed back in. It's not a fast process.
Oh,
I think you have to speak her name 3 times. That's the summoning of the chair.
I love that.
So,
high level of security, right?
There we go.
Oh, there she is.
There she is. Okay, Robin, you're back.
I'm back.
It was very-
You're
It
You're
was
off
very
duty, Fritz.
stressful for me, you know. Very stressful.
I'm sorry about that. Thank you very much for taking the reins. Okay. So we'll move along. That was 4.2, 5 business arising from the minutes. Housing Accelerator Fund, 5.1 Housing Accelerator Fund. Daniel, take it away.
Thank you, Robin. So I sent out this morning, giving people no opportunity to review, but I sent out the draft application for the Housing Accelerator Fund application. So there's an Excel spreadsheet and then there's a PDF. So the Excel spreadsheet, CMHC has made available on their website for us to fill in, and it essentially fills, you have to fill out some of the things we talked about, but it seems every time that we go through it, they have additional details that they're looking for in the application. It's quite extensive. So in essence, it's like I have to forecast the anticipated growth without any of the initiatives from the Housing Action Fund, and they strongly imply you're supposed to do it based on past permits. So we've sort of added up the net permits of the last 5 years, and then just use the average of that to project going forward. And essentially, they say if you don't want to use that, then you need to give a like rationale. And then I have prepared that PDF document with 5 of the initiatives from their list that we talked about at the last meeting, and I can go through those. And then essentially how I've drafted the sort of projections at this point is essentially that our growth would continue as it has over the average of the last 5 years, but with an additional 24 units of affordable housing, essentially just plugging in the Birch project and saying, like, if nothing else happens, but we then receive, we are able to, you know, help support Birch and Birch goes ahead. We have 24 additional units, and that gives us the
Daniel, can we
required
ask
like growth.
questions as we go
Yeah.
along?
Yes.
Okay, so we're looking at the PDF? The
Right now, I'm
application
just talking
form?
through the Excel spreadsheet. I can put on the screen.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, it doesn't, I just wanted to,
Yeah.
make sure where I was looking at the right thing. So how do you get, oh, what do I want to click on when I open that up?
Hang on. Let me go to this one.
HAF
maybe-
form?
Daniel can share a screen. Yeah, there
Yeah.
we go. Then we're all looking at
That
the same
might
thing.
help. Okay, there we go.
So essentially, this is the application form they have, and the
Yeah, okay.
it's sort of not intuitive. I found over time because it's sort of an
Yeah.
iterative application, but so it's like this is the 96 that would be permitted without the Housing Accelerator Fund over the 3-year period, and that's based on the 32.
Okay, so
permanent
my
dwellings
question
in-
is, the single detached, we've got building permit data,
Yeah.
but how can you possibly say we have multi-unit housing in close proximity to rapid transit?
I know that one I've sort of, is it rapid transit? In the past for TransLink, we have argued and successfully that we qualify for rapid transit due to the ferry essentially qualifying. So for our TransLink funding applications in the Cove, we've been successful at that it's walking distance to our transit station. The alternate would be to say it's maybe it's other or it's missing middle. And essentially this is the 510 Bowen Island Trunk Road apartment building.
Okay, so, and we're gonna have, is this a 4-year period or a 5?
A 3-year period.
So we're gonna have 4 more of those built basically each year for the next 3 or 4, yeah.
And actually maybe a portion of this actually, if I check, is like the fourplex and some of the duplexes in.
Okay, so those, it's not
So it might instead,
more
some of
than,
them should be slid to missing middle.
yeah, okay,
It's maybe more appropriate. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, okay.
Because I have, where is it down here, like the number of permits issued.
Yeah,
And then, yeah, this report sort of jumps all over, but then essentially it takes, okay, the projected growth without the Housing Accelerator Fund would be 1.53%. With it would be 1.91%. It gives us then an increased growth rate of 25%, which exceeds the target. And then it has a funding estimator. And this would change if I say some of it's missing middle instead of rapid transit funding, but essentially it says, oh, we would provide $1.2 million in funding.
yeah.
I can just imagine the folks building this spreadsheet.
I know, it's quite something. And then essentially what I've done with the money then is I say, does it show up here? I thought I had a version where I essentially said we would spend like 0.5% of the funding each year on the initiatives and thinking about like some of the, but it seems like it's too, I'm not sure what's going on with this, but you know, we would spend a small percentage of the money each year on developing the initiatives. And then the balance of it would be invested in affordable housing, thinking it's going into our affordable housing fund and then available as capital funding for projects.
So how much money would we get in total?
Well, that's what this, like, based on this, now this will change if I say, oh, it's actually missing middle and it's not rapid transit, which maybe is more.
Do they
accurate.
define rapid transit?
I'm not sure. I'll check.
I'm not sure the ferry qualifies as rapid transit, but
So we managed to make our case to TransLink, essentially saying
Yeah.
they want it to be like near the, you know.
Well, and we get to the 257 with it,
Yeah.
which is,
so,
yeah.
you know, we essentially told them, well, based on your map, nowhere on Bowen qualifies. That's not fair. And so they've said Snug Cove Terminal counts. And if you're within walking distance of that, that qualifies for their funding formula.
Yeah, okay.
So yes, you can query how rapid our transit is. But
yeah, well, that's, I guess, when I think of rapid transit, I think of the rapid bus or the SkyTrain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just didn't want us to get disqualified because we had the wrong definition.
So maybe I'll go safer, but essentially based on that, just when I've entered these numbers straight in, it's like 1.29 million.
Okay.
Now, some of that is like they deliver it in segments, and if we don't hit the number of permits, they withhold.
Right. Yeah.
the
I remember
last
that.
amount. So we would get a certain amount regardless. But then if, you know, like interest rates go up and we don't permit the same number of single family homes, we would receive less funding.
But aren't they wanting us to permit more than single family homes? They're wanting multi-family.
Yeah, but they want homes, and then they give you incentives if more of them are multifamily.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So what
So that-
happened to the idea about putting it in community related infrastructure like the sewer? Because we can't build anything more in Snug Cove without the sewer.
I know the challenge I have with that is that the initiatives are meant to drive growth within 3 years.
Ah, okay.
And so I think, you know, we don't have detailed plans. We don't have
We'll be lucky if we got it done in 3
available
years.
land. Yeah, I would trouble like signing off on an application saying that like us getting this money over the next 3 years will let us build expansion to the sewer plant to then permit more units
Yeah.
within a 3-year time frame.
Yeah.
And maybe if it was more, if this ended up being like $10 million they would give us on day one, then we could say, yes, we will.
But this way, housing anywhere in the island counts. So if,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, how does this work? If I drag. Did that work? Are you not seeing the PDF?
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially, this is the same information then that's broken down that I have to prepare
Can you
twice.
make it a wee bit bigger?
Yeah. And so they provided me with this yesterday. So initially they provided it in a webinar. They showed screenshots of it. And then on their website, they said, it will be available in the portal when we launch it. And I contacted them and said, well, I need to provide it to council to sign off on it. How can they sign off on something that
You haven't got?
see?
Yeah.
And I don't want to like, you know, produce and format a housing action plan that's different than what I just have to enter. So all that to say, some of the numbers in here may not match exactly the Excel, and I'm aware of that needing to go through it. But the gist of this one is that you need to identify 5 initiatives to support that will help accelerate housing. And each of them are supposed to say like how many numbers of units do you think this will add? And so knowing sort of like staff ability to deliver, I've tried to keep them simple, the 5 that I've selected. But so essentially number 1 is like revised parking standards, and that's looking at reducing parking requirements for affordable housing multifamily developments. So we've issued variances in the past. We have one coming to council and saying, well, maybe instead we should be looking at the land use bylaw and lowering that. But I don't think that actually provides additional housing necessarily in the next 3 years. And then they ask for each of these, they're asking for like the impact and the supply impact and milestones and deadlines and everything. All right, and then I'm just skipping through this where I said, okay. And then preparing it again. So I have the second initiative being develop cost charges is on their list. So it's ensuring that fees to cover necessary infrastructure, this gets cut off, but are transparent and clear and predetermined. And so this is a project the council has directed us to do, is development cost charges for sewer. So I put in here sewer, water, road infrastructure as potentials. And so this is about providing clear, transparent, predetermined fees for infrastructure. I've put some costs in here thinking about public meetings necessary for it or potential legal review. But again, I don't see this as actually driving additional units. And this one, so waiving public hearings for affordable housing projects in alignment with the OCP. So recent changes to the Local Government Act have meant that council can waive public hearings if a rezoning is consistent with the OCP. And so this would be essentially changing our affordable housing policy to say, you know, if it's a rezoning that's consistent with the OCP, it provides affordable housing. And that would like kind of have to be defined, I think, but council can waive the public hearing. Again, I don't really see that driving additional units. That's more just about improving the process. This one that's underway is e-permitting. So implementing new enhanced process or systems. So we have a project underway to bring in e-permitting for building bylaws. That's kind of hit a snag with our fee structure. So I need to bring a bylaw to council about changing our fees. But that's sort of underway. And okay. then section, this is the larger one in terms of providing direct capital support for nonprofit housing. So this is one saying partnering with nonprofit housing to preserve and increase the stock of affordable housing is their description. So this is the one I put right now. It's got all the costs, but I would reduce it somewhat to say we'll spend some of the money on other things, but essentially saying, you know, this initiative, we're going to take the bulk of the money that you provide, we're going to put it in our affordable housing reserve, and then it will be available as direct capital support for nonprofit housing. And I haven't entered it in here, but essentially saying like that was what will drive the increase in affordable housing units on Bowen, is that we would have money available to provide grant funding. And then the last one is again on their list of suggested initiatives, and it's create a process for the disposal of city-owned land assets for the development of affordable housing. And that kind of ties into the presentation that we saw today.
Daniel,
Yes.
when it talks about a process for disposal, does that
Yeah.
also include leasing for $1 type thing?
Yeah.
Access to?
Yeah.
But
So
but
it's
you
just-
actually have to use the word disposal?
This is their like pull down from their menu.
Okay,
This initiative type, all of these are like their, you know, they have essentially a list of initiatives that you're picking from.
okay.
And it is
So-
like a, you know, if we lease, it is considered a disposal of land. Like we need to give the notice.
Yeah, I
the community
guess,
charter.
yeah. What I was thinking is wording would have been nicer to say provide access to city-owned land assets for the development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think
Okay.
that one, this one, I haven't done much writing on it, but I think that's what it would be saying is like, this is sort of as envisioned, you know, that we saw today. It's about working on what's the process by which, you know, we want to make land available for the community lands for affordable housing. So
Yeah.
I'm saying we've done it in the past, and it would seek to establish a list of potential land could be made available for the development of affordable housing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't commit to like providing the land, but it's saying we want to work on
Yeah. Okay.
researching that. And then this is where then my numbers don't quite add up, because I've said in here, you know, could permit 80 units. And I think I was thinking of the 20 that are on area 2. And then I've got like 60 on area 1 of lot 1 that I just sort of made up. And then I put in here, and then I was sort of debating this. Is like, do I think that would actually result in units within the 3-year period? So I had put in this form that it would, but I haven't, it doesn't match what I put in the Excel spreadsheet.
And Parkview Slopes isn't in there either, is it?
No, but that's not city owned land.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So sort of this one I'm saying, like, you know, having a process by which we would be making land available on the community lands would result in additional units, but I don't know how confident I am in saying it would happen within 3 years, or if I should be instead just saying it'd be 0 within 3 years, but it will increase units over the long term, which does give them some sort of scoring in their evaluation for the initiatives. And again, I haven't filled in these parts. And then other than that, the application form is like, they have some, I had initial conversations with our CFO because there's like a declaration that the CFO has to sign. And essentially it has to be like municipal staff signing off and saying like, yes, we believe in these projections and we believe in these, that this is achievable, which is kind of odd.
Well, no, they have to do that on our audited financial statements and they have to do that when they present the provincial budget,
right.
Yeah, they have to sign off.
But that's essentially what goes into the application. And that the CMHC just told me today that they anticipate the portal opening at the start of July and that it would be open for 45 days. So my timeline would be to present it to the Housing Advisory Committee today, have any feedback, and then prepare it to bring to council for the July 10th meeting for council approval. And then I would be submitting it essentially right after that. So I know that was just a lot of PDF and Excel stuff, but I'm open for any input or questions people have.
Thanks so much, Daniel. That's great. Greg, go ahead.
You're muted, Greg.
Oh, I know. I heard the term affordable housing in this document a lot. Is there anywhere where that's defined in terms of how it relates to this document?
CMHC has a affordable housing definition, I believe.
Yeah. I think they had that at the housing seminar, but I can't remember what it
Yeah.
was. Is it, it fits in the 30%, doesn't it? Is it 30% below?
So non-market, I've heard the term non-market.
Yeah. And that's sometimes what I'm almost using as the like proxy for it.
Okay. The funds that we would receive goes into a general fund to be used. Could that money be used to help support Mark's development, for example, with regards to road infrastructure? Is that how you see the money being used to support affordable housing, or is there what discretion is there on how the money that we receive is put forward?
Sure. So we have an affordable housing reserve fund, and I believe it's on Kristen's or our CFO's work list in terms of like the policy for, so that reserve fund has a bylaw that establishes it. It lays out what the money can be used for and how we're gaining. So monies in this reserve shall be used only for the purpose of the creation, maintenance, and preservation of affordable housing in the municipality and furthering the goals of the municipality's affordable housing initiatives as determined from time to time. And then I believe Kristen has it on her work plan to develop sort of like a more nuanced like policy of how that takes place. But in essence, how we've been looking at it is like, if we got $1 million through this fund that goes in and it's in there, then it's available for council to provide as grant funding for projects.
And so the application is based on estimates, and estimates are estimates.
Yep.
Funding is based on performance.
Yep.
So the people signing off on an estimate is just that, an estimate.
Yeah, and it's sort of been a challenge as I've sort of wrestled with, okay, what are we applying for and what's the money going to? And almost because it's estimates and like, you know, they sort of say they might bring some of it back. It's hard to then like definitely run it, like plan it into a project and say, well, we're like, it's hard for Birch, for example, to say, well, now we know we're going to get this much funding, even assuming that council, you know, said, yes, we'll get this money. And when we get it, it's going to go provided as capital funding for Birch on Lot 3. Because, you know, we don't definitely know when we would get all of it. So it's easier to say, well, it's going to go into the affordable housing fund. And then when we know we have it and we know that it is like assigned to there, we've put it where we said we're going to put it in the fund. We only spend it on these purposes, and then we can spend based on what we have.
There's two funds, right? One for small communities below 10,000 and one for, so at least this time we're not having to compete against the big guys.
Yes. And like even their funding is estimated funding based on, they know how much funding they have, and then they're estimating what, like how many applications, and they may come back and be like, oh, we had so many, so we're going to half the amount of funding. You know, we had said it was going to be this much per unit, well, it's going to be half of that. So that's what you get.
And I think when we were talking about this last time, it was sort of a, well, we might as well go for it, you know, like it's a lot of money if we do it. And if we overestimate and we come in under, so be it, we'll still get some money. Like, I think it was sort of a, like, it's a great opportunity. It's really worth trying for. And, you know, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. That's too bad. It was a waste of Daniel's time. But even if part of that money came through, you know, like, it would be a great, really great for the community. It's a good opportunity. So
how much could they claw back?
I was just trying to look for that, and I don't remember if they're giving it out in 3.
Yeah.
Sections
I know there's a
4
withhold
sections.
at the end.
Yeah. And they've definitely said it's like, you know, I think it's 3. So I think it would be like they'd give a third, they'd give the second third, they give the, and definitely the third is like at risk. And I don't remember if the second one is at risk.
Yeah,
as
that
well.
was my.
I don't think there's any clawback. I think it's that you just don't get the third, or it's the 4th installment.
Yeah.
Okay, so once we've got a check, we don't have to worry about, we can keep it.
I've never
I think we just have to like account
the
for what we
federal
do with it.
government or the province to ever claw money back. Like, it's just, I've never seen it happen.
Okay.
Okay, great. Well, I'm keeping an eye on the clock. We are supposed to end at 11 and we've got a couple more things to get through. So
Well, I've
Daniel, is
got
there any-
people coming on the 11:15 ferry, and the ferry's running on time today.
Oh, there you
No.
go.
So I will have to leave by about 10 after 11.
Yeah, okay, so we'll try to, so Daniel, is there anything specific that you would like back from us? Or I'm thinking, given the time, maybe if we ask the committee to review and email you feedback, or yeah, given we've
I mean, I
only got
think
a
I
few
would
minutes.
love, even just if the committee is comfortable in this place, like recommendation that we submit, like the HAC recommend council, apply for the Housing Accelerator Fund in the summer of
I move
2020
that
or something like that.
I move that we recommend the
Yeah.
council
Hmm.
move forward with this application as
Right.
necessary.
Tim seconded, all in favor? Yeah, okay, approved. So Steph, you can draft something along those lines?
Thank
Okay,
you, Daniel. That was,
excellent.
working
Excellent.
with that document must have just made, bleh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you for all that work. That's
Thanks,
great.
Daniel.
Here's hoping in 3 years, it'll pay off.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll move along. 5.2 is committee of the or council, I think committee of the whole on housing, which is going to be in September 25th. It's planned for. Did we want to, oh, Daniel, this was you as well. Did we want to discuss anything now, or just given the time, do you want to defer that to the next meeting if we can try and meet next month?
Yeah, we can defer. I think this was in part to say, yes, we've scheduled a committee of the whole, scheduled for September. The committee had previously prepared and presented the report that's in the agenda to council. And so sort of a refresher of like, this is what would be on the agenda, but then thinking about at the committee level, what else would we like to talk about? And so I know Allison had flagged, since this report went to council, I think I'm fuzzy on the timeline exactly, but I think since this report went to council, councilors who adopted a conservation development policy. And so just wanting to look at, okay, how do these work together? And then
Did this
also
report
know,
ever come to council? That's what I'm trying to remember.
yes.
I don't recall, but I believe it did.
Yeah,
That's
that
right.
was-
And then that's when we got direction for a committee of the whole. That's my memory.
Yeah, okay. The only other thing I would add then is the housing targets report that we also created last year. I think it would be worthwhile having that on the agenda as well. But yeah, okay, so unless there's anything
And I
urgent-
think
mhm.
because the Community Economic Development Committee did that housing survey, and that was last council that they did it and presented, I think it might be useful to include that in the package of information,
Mhm,
along
that's a
with
great idea.
along with maybe the business licensing report on short-term rentals. Just so that all the information is there.
Mhm. And maybe
And
I'm not
Did
oh, go ahead.
Birch do a housing survey? I
did.
remember. So
Yeah,
have
last
we
year.
seen the results of that?
I believe they were published. I'd have to have a look. I can't remember.
Yeah,
the date,
because
but
I
this
mean,
was a
that's
year ago.
relevant background information, I guess, as well.
Mhm,
Yeah.
okay. And then maybe if Yep.
Is that the housing needs?
housing targets report,
Housing
and that was a
targets.
report that this committee produced last year. And then the other thing, just as we were speaking about that, maybe let's think about if it's appropriate to invite members of the Community Economic Development Committee, just if somebody there wanted the chair or somebody wanted to speak to the housing survey or just be part of the discussion.
Yeah, exactly.
We can open invitation. Yeah, exactly, because they are related, right? So maybe we could look at that. Great. Okay, if there's nothing else on that one, thank you, Daniel. We will move along. So, because I don't want to, yeah, we're a little close. Is everybody okay to go? We'll be like a few minutes past 11, and obviously if you have to drop off, you drop off. We have council updates, other business, and then I just want to, we can lock in a date for the next meeting. Oh, Steph, for some reason we can't hear you.
No, you've gone mute again.
I think Steph needs a new mic. I think you need to buy Steph a new mic. Yeah. Is she writing in the chat maybe, or you're working on it? Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll go along to council updates from Councillor Morris and Councillor Week.
I don't
Oh,
have,
yeah.
I looked at the report from council last night, and there wasn't anything specific to the housing program in the last council meeting. And one on the special committee of the whole on the 14th, we recognized a whole bunch of issues that need to be dealt with respect to the park at Cape Roger Curtis.
Okay,
And
great.
there was mention of housing, staff housing in the park.
Yeah,
That's about the only thing.
yeah, we did bring forward a reminder that we were concerned about their staff housing adding to our, their staff needing housing, adding to our housing issues.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I see Steph wrote in the chat that we'll do a doodle poll for the next date because we want Ron to be here and
Lois too,
if
yeah.
possible. Yeah. Yeah, Daniel.
Sorry, just other council report or council update. I know we discussed, I think our last meeting, the Arbutus Bay Road rezoning. That hasn't come back
Oh,
to
right.
council, but is scheduled to come back to council on Monday night. So maybe next meeting, we would give you an update on how council proceeds.
Okay.
And Daniel's report's available in the agenda, and it does add the extra 2 lots and a slightly new layout, which is really nice.
Okay, great. Good. So I think, and Steph, just as we're talking about it, I feel like next meeting is going to be a fairly full agenda. So we should probably schedule 2 hours. I hope that works for everybody, just because there's a number of items and we've just added a few. So might as well have that in the calendar. Any other business? 6.2? Nope, seeing none. Look at that, 11 o'clock on the dot. So good. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Mark, especially for coming and sharing with us. And we'll see you again soon. And thank you all the staff, and Liam, thanks for your time for joining us today. Good. Okay, we will see. I will adjourn, and we will see you whenever the doodle poll tells us it works for next month.